I have inlaid the back of the propeller for the hinge. I have opened up the hole to the size of my prop shaft, and I've selected some balsa, some hard balsa, for making a nose block. Let's take a closer look. Here is the fit and the location I have on my hinge. Lower one, the one that will need to be inlaid into the back of the prop, and the one that's closer to the center, I have that in line with the edge of my center hub. Here's my center hub right here, and that is exactly where I want to also cut it when I after I whip this on to get it to fold. So I have both sides. I have it right on that center line of the part of the hinge that's closest to the center of the prop. Something to pay attention to. I actually, after I inlaid it, I have actually cut a little bit of clearance out right here, and that's because when I cut this, now this prop with the wires whipped to the prop is going to have to clear from here up and around this hinge, which is going to be whipped to the center hub. The next thing, after I inlaid that to my satisfaction, was to open up this hole. I've opened it up by hand to 93 thousandths, and the way I do that so I don't get it way off is I go in from each side probably about a third of the way before I eventually go all the way through. Here's an interesting thing. At any point, even with this prop fully carved, you can put your drill, the shank of the drill bit in, and you can verify that that's square both ways. Putting it flat on that face. Line up that leading edge, the original prop block, rotate it around, and you should have the same gap. So I know my prop won't wobble, and being square will give me my same pitch, blade to blade. The next thing I do, when I am 100% convinced that I have my location on my inlay, and I have my hole through the prop square, so I line up the edges of the hinge to the center hub, make sure I am lined up on my hinge line, and I take the drill bit and I mark by hand just the center of that drill bit on the side of the hinge that goes against the back of the prop. I've scribed an X there, and I'm going to drill that out. So something to also notice, I'm drilling this out, and I drilled the prop center hub out right to the size of my motor or my prop shaft. And the reason for that is, if you look at a prop that's done, the prop shaft is going to turn with the center hub. So it is not going to be spinning in the hinge or in the center hub. This has a drive dog with a set screw locked to the prop shaft. So it is turning in the nose block. So I'll drill that right to size in the center hub through the aluminum hinge, and then I'll harden the hole going through the center hub with CA. That's probably the biggest reason. Like, some people will replace the center hub after they make their cuts. They'll toss it and replace the center hub with either a harder piece of balsa or a spruce. I don't care to do that, mostly because, one, it's not turning. So, two, I harden the center hub, the balsa, and I have aluminum support on the back. And I want the accuracy of both of these faces, and I also want the accuracy of inlaying this hinge. So here's where you can see where that clearance is on my prop. So everything about the inlay matches up if you use the center hub from the prop block. Just doing a final check on the alignment of drilling out the aluminum to the 93 thousandths hole. Next would be to glue the hinge down and whip it on with thread, but first I want to finish the prop. Seal it up. I think I'm going to go with the clear on the prop. It's like my gollywog prop, clear or natural color. I'll probably go with a tan or a green thread for the coloring on this prop. I put the first coat of clear on last night. Just a very light coat, enough to seal it. And now it's fuzzy. I am trying this Krylon Clear. It's a matte finish. I've noticed some other channels using that versus dope on their tissue covering. Want the matte finish for that classic flat look. So now I need to steel wool it between coats. This is a very fine steel wool, like a double or triple steel wool. Just enough to knock the fuzzies off and get a second coat on it. I have the final coat on, and I just checked it for balance. Had to give just another shot or two to the back of this blade. It's my last chance to balance the prop blank. And that is beautiful. If you look at this finish, I've kept it, the coat's light enough. It didn't get fuzzy on this last coat, but I like this natural matte finish look to this prop. Those two light coats are plenty enough to seal it, like from morning dew. Last thing before I glue this on, I am scoring the backside. Give the glue a little more purchase. So just take my number 11 X-Acto, score a pattern. I have also went over this with the front side with my jeweler files, cleaned up the plier marks and little sandpaper. Did a nice little crosshatch pattern for the finish on the front of the hinge. Just glued on the hinge with the drill bit lining up the hole, and I've kept the alignment on the edge of the hinge to the center hub. I start whipping by laying a single piece across the prop perpendicular. At the point I want to start, I'm working this way. So I lay it across there, glue that down, rub it with my finger, get the glue to set. Then where I'm at right now, I hang the tag end off this side, and I have 2 wraps laid down perpendicular all the way around. I don't tie off my whipping, and I don't use accelerator. I'll continue making wraps, just holding tension as I go around here. I'll probably put down 3 or 4 wraps. This tension gets quite strong with multiple wraps. It's kind of interesting. You can get it too tight and crush the balsa, but I lay them one by each other like I have right now, and then I will hold that, push them so they're tight against the wraps that I just laid down. Run a little super glue on those wraps. Rub it with my finger. That causes it to fire when you seal the air off. You can see I got it plenty tight. It's squeezing into the balsa right there, just with pinching the this is spider wire, just pinching it with my finger. So now this is held tight because it's glued down. I can go around and glue the other sides that I got laid down, and then I'll continue around like that till I'm going to run the wrap up to about this bend right here in the hinge. I start and finish on the same side like that. I have everything whipped and soaked, glued down. There it is. The hinge is whipped to the center hub. Not going anywhere. Now we have to whip the copper wires to the propeller blades. These were set up straight and parallel simply to get our hinge angles. A little bit of fiddling to get them to lay properly. First thing I do is bring that one up, and right away it lets this one lay along the blade. So I'll want to get that curve in there first, and then get this one to bend across the front of the blade. I have the wires bent to follow the contours of the blades. And I have a chisel point sharpened with a file on the end of the copper wire. I have the top one cut off about an 1/8 inch longer than the bottom ones. So I'm going to make those 90-degree bends and press these chisel points into the blade. Here are the 90-degree bends with the chisel points just starting into the blades. And there's that difference in length. Now we simply press these into the blade. Everything lays nice on the blade, ready to be whipped. The last thing I did was run a bead of super glue all along the wires where they're laying against the prop blades. It's a lot of whipping. It's done. There's only one thing left to do. Got some lines marked on here, just pencil lines also, squaring off that hinge where I want to cut this. Yeah, let's cut it. Last bit you have to come through on that hinge angle. I don't want to cut into the aluminum. At the same time, I don't want to rip the balsa. Oh, there it is. There is the moment. Yes. Holding the hub level. Folding the blade back. average pitch, perpendicular, holding the hub level this way, no sag. Can I be so lucky that I got both hinge angles right? Looks pretty good. About for sag. Oh my. So that is a process to get yourself one of these. I made the comment before about it being the biggest factor for performance on a free flight, rubber powered free flight plane. Oh, that's super glue. That's why that's so hard on the back there. Yeah, your trim settings and so on are important. Straight build, but with everything being equal, the folding prop, which also has the stop on it, which means your rubber motor never fully unwinds. So when it relaxes, the length stretch relaxes enough to where it hits the stop, they fold. You never get any rubber bunched up in the back of the fuselage, throwing your center of gravity off, and then obviously you don't have the drag of a freewheeling prop. But something else to point out, I talked about not swapping out this balsa wood hub. This is whipped right to this aluminum hinge plate, and the forces are pulling forces on the hinge and the wire. So as the prop is turning, these blades are pushing air back, so they're forced forward. They're forced up against this center hub and these flat surfaces. So all the time and effort into accuracy, getting a nice folder like this, those matched razor saw cuts. That razor saw probably isn't even 15 thousandths thick. That, for my money, is going to be a more accurate prop as far as pitch, it lining back up straight again, balance. You saw me balance it, and all I have left to do now, I need to seal these ends, but I won't use the Krylon Clear. I will seal the ends with CA. I want them hardened. CA will seal it, and I want them hardened for wear purposes, so it doesn't crush. And then I want to maintain those nice straight sharp ends, which is when that pressure comes on, it's lining up my prop. So folder, baby. We gotta see what this looks like. Oh yeah. There is the payoff for hours of work. Have the nose block plus the spring prop shaft. It's about how far out it will be. Oh, that's sweet.